It's a new year and as good a time as any for a new you. In today's episode, we're on the other side of the line in the sand we drew before crossing over into 2022. Episode 24 was about saying no and leaving behind all the things getting in your way. Today, I'm kicking off a 5-part series called The 5 C's of a Creating Maven, which is all about the characteristics you want to double down on in this new year so that you can make your unique contribution and get paid to be you. Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. Refresh. Why are we here, folks? Why are we here at Reframe to Create? We're here because for too long, we've believed that we have to give up our lives for our jobs, that we have to give up ourselves and who we are in order to fit into someone else's definition of the job or of success. That era is over. That time of being productivity hamsters who are spinning our wheels trying to become who they want us to be so that we can be blessed with the title of being successful is over. We have a new understanding of work, one that's not captured by our jobs or careers, but is liberated from all that. Our work, our real work, is what we create with our gifts. We look for ways to create with and offer things created from our gifts in service. Some of us will offer it in paid service, others in free service. But either way, we'll be creating with our gifts, showing up fully as ourselves, and when we do get paid, it will be for being and bringing ourselves, not for conforming. Getting paid to be yourself doesn't necessarily mean you're leaving your job to become an entrepreneur. It doesn't even necessarily mean you find a new job. What it does mean is that wherever you are pulling income, you are getting it from being you and only you. You don't have to contort yourself into a shape that it isn't. And you are seen and valued for that. How do you do that? You have to show up fully as you. And you in all your fullness is a creating maven because we all have gifts we were born with and which we are here to create with. If you're not creating with your gifts right now, then you've got room to expand and bring more of you so that you can be paid for being and bringing you. We are creating mavens, and I'm here to ensure we become it more and more in this new year. Because being is the key to everything. It's the foundation from which our actions spring. Whatever we do, whatever you do, it's always coming from who you are right now. You can always temporarily change what you're doing, but you'll only be able to do it for a little bit if you're still who you've always been. It won't be sustainable. In order to do something that sticks and is consistent, you have to become the type of person who does that thing. In order to create continuously, which is the mark of a creating maven, you have to become a creating maven. What I'm saying can feel a little bit like chicken and egg, right? Like, well, which one comes first? Are you a creating maven first who creates, or do you create and then you become a creating maven? This confusion and sort of circular situation is why I want to help you start this year off right by helping you become the right person. Because I've already given you lots of little homework assignments and things to do in the past 24 episodes. But if they're going to stick and serve as the foundation for all the things you have coming up that you need to do, then you need to invest in who you are and invest in a way that's helping you become a creating maven. And that means investing in these 5 C's: commitment, no comparison, confidence, courage, and curiosity. Today, we'll have a deeper look at commitment. So when I was 5 and before my family had moved to live in Nigeria, we lived in the country next door, Niger. And one day, while my older siblings, Nikki, Babs, and Aya were home on vacation from boarding school in England, they nearly drowned me. Yes. My sister Nikki was 15 at the time, and she had lost her bracelet in the deep end of our pool. And my brother Babs, who was 14, and my other brother Aya, who was 11, they weren't that tall at the time. They were trying to help her get it and dive into the deep end to find it. At this time, I hadn't learned how to swim yet, and I was still floating around in the pool in my inflatable ring. So I don't know where I got this idea, but I was like, I want to come. Like, I want to join in with you guys. So they had the bright idea that, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to deflate your inflatable ring just a little bit so that it can sort of submerge in the water, and then hold on to Bab's back, and he's going to dive down. And when we all go under the water, hold your breath for a couple seconds. And then when you run out of air, just let go of his back and you'll just float up in the inflatable ring to the surface. Right. So this was a bright idea. This was the plan. Needless to say, it did not work out. So we go ahead, we do it. I go underwater. I don't last that long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've run out of air. So I let go of Bab's back. And not only do I let go of his back, but I slip out of the ring completely. And so now I'm in the deep end of our pool drowning, and Io sees me. And as I said, they weren't that tall at the time. So he's trying to help me at the side of the pool, and we're like thrashing around. And like it's dangerous to try to help someone when they're drowning to save their lives. So we're thrashing around, and then he leaves me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my brother has left me to drown. But he hadn't actually left me. He went to get Nikki and Babs. So then all three of them are like struggling, and they manage to like shove me out of the pool into like the flower bed near the pool. And they come out and they get out the pool, and we're all like just shocked and stunned, because that was like near life death experience. And it felt like it had gone on for hours, and obviously it wasn't. It was just like a couple of seconds. And so we, march up to the front of the porch, and my mom had been sitting there talking to a friend and hadn't noticed all the commotion of what had been going on. And we're just like, she just nearly drowned. And it was like this whole big dramatic thing. So when my dad gets home, my dad's like, okay, that is it. Joy is going to learn how to swim. So that's how I found myself now in the shallow end of the pool with my dad, without the inflatable ring, getting a swimming lesson. So my dad's like, okay, Joy, swim to me. So I take a couple strokes, and just as I'm about to like grab onto his arm, this man steps back. And so I stop and I stand, and I'm like, wait, what are you doing, Dad? Like, you told me to swim to you. Why are you moving back? He's like, no, this is it. This is how you're going to learn how to swim. Just try again, take another stroke. And I was just so upset. This was so frustrating. I was like, no, like I'm going to drown. And this was us for like the next, it felt like many hours. I know it was not, but this was how I then eventually learned how to swim. It was just 2 strokes, reaching out, almost grabbing him, and him moving back and saying, try again. And then it turning into 3 and 4. And eventually I learned how to swim. And I love this picture, this analogy and picture. And I want to use this image of me as a 5-year-old thrashing around in a pool, yelling at my dad, getting upset and frustrated, as the image of commitment that I want in your mind. Because commitment that I'm talking about is not this clean, clear, pristine thing. It's messy, it's ugly. And you're familiar with this because you've had many things that you had to go at again and again and again to try in order to achieve something. And that commitment was not like a clean, pristine thing. And contrast that to the type of commitment I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the Sylvester Stallone commitment in Rocky IV, that whole Eye of the Tiger montage where he's like, going through the Russian, mountainside, and like, he's got the like baby oil glistening glow from his muscles, and he's like, I'm going to be Drago type of thing. I'm not talking about that commitment, which is like rough and tough, and the type of the way that we sort of like bust into like a new year, all like guns blazing, and then we usually fizzle out and burn out. No, I'm talking about the commitment of what I looked like when I was learning how to swim, just trying again. And you know what this looks like for yourself. Like you've probably tried to learn how to ride a bike. So how you looked when you were falling off the bike, flailing about, or even when you were like a little baby and learning how to walk, when it was like, get up, crawl, fall down on your diapers, get up again and try. It's not about how you look. It's not about looking fly. It's about being willing to get back up again and try again. It's really less even about starting and how you look at the start line, but it's about being willing to restart. And that's hard because usually when we're restarting from a weaker position. Maybe we've fallen off the horse and we're flailing about in the mud and we're on the ground, or we've tripped over something and we're everyone has seen us and we have this embarrassing moment. But this type of ability to get back up again and try again, because that's what your commitment looks like, is the foundational characteristic of a creating maven. It's being willing to restart. It's gentler. It's kinder. It's being willing to take turtle steps. And I talk about turtle steps because there's something about that story, not the story. It's the story of the tortoise and the hare. And I always talk about turtles instead of a tortoise because I feel like I just sound weird saying tortoise. So I like saying the turtle, but it's the story of the tortoise and the hare, like that Aesop's fable where the hare thinks that because he's faster, he's going to beat the tortoise. And so he just like runs and he stops and pauses and sleeps. But the tortoise just takes it step by step and he's just very gently, consistently moving forward. And I also love that picture, that image. And that's sort of what I used with my clients when we were working through. I had this thing called the Every Single Day Challenge, which I, had last year, where it was like a 30-day group with a number of clients, about 10 people, who they each had a goal that they wanted to achieve. And I said, let's break it down into something that you're doing every single day, a little thing, a turtle step. What's a little micro action you can take every single day? And that's the commitment I want you to make, because we often burn out. We often get lost in the commitment that we made for a year and discouraged because we have these goals and these things that we want to do that are so big, or we want to do it in such a big way that we just don't take into account that that's just not how life tends to be. We're going to fall down, and we have to be ready for that and not shame ourselves in that, and be prepared for what do you need to do and how do you need to be for that moment when you're getting back up again. What does your commitment need to look like? It needs to look like someone getting up from having fallen down on their butt. I know what commitment is for me this year. I'm committed to this podcast. I'm committed to creating consistently for you because we're on a journey together. And if you know anything about podcasts, they say it takes 2 years to really start to get traction. And 2 years is a long time, really, to invest in something without really knowing, is it really working out? Or even knowing if anyone's listening. Like, hello out there. Is anyone listening? Like, I have no idea who is listening or if anyone's listening. I don't know if you're listening unless you send me an email to tell me you're listening at joy@reframetocreate.com, or if you leave me a review on Apple Review. That's the only way I know that people are listening or getting value out of this. But I'm still committed every single episode to sort of get back up again, get my creative juices going again, and just being committed to try again. I'm creating over and over again with these episodes because I believe in this. I believe in you, and I believe in what we're doing here. And I know that nothing is lost when we create. And so I want you to think about this for yourself. Think about when you were younger, when you were learning how to ride a bike, or learning your alphabet, or you were really young, learning how to walk, or anything that you were learning to do. I want you to remember that person and how unencumbered they were, to look at learning as this exciting thing and look at doing something again and again as something that was exciting and a way of exploring and moving towards and into life. And what your commitment looked like was not being overly concerned about how you were looking and how well you were doing it, but just about, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try that again. And that's what we need to recapture as creating mavens, that desire and that spirit to just try again. And so that's what our commitment is going to be. And that's what I want you to commit to with me. We're going to try again. That's it. That's what we're going to do this year. We're just going to be willing to try again. So what this means for you is that you may start out this January with all the best intentions of creating more, using your gifts more, and then something happens in February and March, in April and May. And then you wake up in June and you're like, oh my goodness, I have not created for the past few months. I just did a little something in January and look, we're already in June. I want you to know at that moment that you are right on track and you're in the right place, because our commitment for this year is to try again. And so in that June moment, I want you to just say, oh, I'm right on time. I'm right on track. I'm in the right place. I'm going to try again, because you can't try again if you don't fall off the wagon. And that's our commitment to not just start. Our commitment isn't to win. Our commitment is to try again. That's our goal. That's what our dogged commitment is going to look like this year. We're not Rocky. We're not blaring through and blasting through. We're turtles. We're 5-year-olds learning how to swim. We're trying again. That's our reframe on commitment for this year. Turtle steps and trying again. In my next episode, I'm going to talk about the second C of a Creating Maven. No comparison. See you soon, Creating Maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?